This meeting will now come to order. Juanita, will you call the roll?
Randy Brockway.
Here.
Rachel Morella. Here. Michael O'Brien.
Here.
Arthur Perry.
Present.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Here. And can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a few people who wish to speak today, and I'll call on the first person to sign up. Thank you for getting here early. Bill Howes, our REC president.
Hello, I'm Bill Howes. I'm the Riverside Education Council president. The Riverside Education Council would like to thank Mr. Kodama and Mrs. Gaynor for their service on the Board of Education. Their work on behalf of students of District 96 is commendable. We wish them success in all future endeavors. The REC would also like to express support for the administration. The commitment Dr. Sharma Lewis and her administration have shown in proactively attending to issues that previously languished is worthy of praise. Solutions to these matters will take time, effort, and dedication from all parties involved. While the union and administration may not always see eye to eye on the path to solving these issues, it is clear that together we are focused on the goal of maintaining high-achieving schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Mark Shevitz.
Mark Shevitz, 340 Olmsted in Riverside. Good evening, Madam President, the rest of the board. I had a couple of questions based on an article in the Riverside Landmark this past week. There was a report in the Landmark that during the closed portion of the August 19th school board meeting, 4 members of the board indicated they had no confidence in Dr. Sharma Lewis. And I'm wondering if any of you would like to respond to that report. Is that accurate? Is that inaccurate?
I don't feel we can comment on that report. Thank you.
Why not?
Closed session.
Closed session doesn't mean you can't talk about what happened in closed session. Closed session gives you the right to go into closed session. You can certainly talk about things that happen in closed session. How about the responsibility that you have to be forthright in your representation of the folks that elected you? If you're acting in our name, I think you have a responsibility to be open with us about your motives and actions. So again, I would ask, does anybody want to comment on that, on the vote of no confidence? I mean, can you confirm it? Can you deny it? There are things going on here that obviously you have a lot of people here tonight that are concerned about. This is a great opportunity to provide some answers instead of relying on hearsay and anonymous reports in the local paper.
I appreciate everything you've said. I would prefer not to comment at this time. But thank you very much for coming and asking.
Sure. Do any of the other members of the board want to comment at all?
I think typically we reserve this time for comments from the president or anybody the president recognizes. So thank you.
Okay. So no comments at all on this. So no. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Kathleen, is this Mead?
Mead.
Hi. Nice to see you again, Kathleen.
My name is Kathleen Mead, and I'm known in the district as Corky Mead. I have lived in Riverside on Kent Road for close to 17 years, and I have 4 children, 3 boys that went to St. Mary's, and my daughter, Colleen, is in 8th grade at Hauser, and she has Down syndrome. And she's awesome. But I wanted to stand up today and say thank you to Dr. Lewis, because her team made so many positive changes for me and for others in the district. My daughter, she left Hauser January 21st. She's a special needs child missing. Well, this was horrible. It was the worst nightmare we ever had. And we could have sued the district, we could have called our attorneys, but because of your action, we decided to work with the administration and to make things better for all the special education, students. And it worked. But I want to point out, for years, under Dr. Lambertson, I have been trying to get proper handicap parking spaces behind Hauser. I wanted to get the bus in front of Central Hauser, drop off possible for handicap or for kids on crutches and all that. Nothing from Dr. Lambertson whatsoever. It was just, no progress was ever made. But somehow, as soon as Dr. Lewis came, we got it done. We got the handicap parking spaces. They were, I emailed her in August, they were done by Thanksgiving break. And they're working on the bus in front of the school now, so the bus can park safely and drop off the children. So we're making progress, and I thank you again for that. It's just, it's upsetting that the board, you guys, the Board of Education can't take the same note and try to work together with this administration and not against them. I mean, the resignation of David and Lisa, it sends a clear statement. It's time for the community to stand up and hold the remaining Board of Education members accountable. You all need to start focusing on the kids and stop talking to the paper about your lack of confidence in our superintendent. Trust me, there's a lack of confidence in your judgment and actions as Board of Education. Most involved parents know how unproductive our years were with Lambertson. But for the first time in a long time, a lot of us feel we can finally move forward. Dr. Sharma Lewis needs to be given a chance to truly demonstrate her value to the district. I'm not alone in this when I say there are many parents who have a great confidence in her abilities, and we worry that she's being ushered out far too quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Coco. Laura Rubio?
Hi, my name is Laura Rubio. I live on East Grove Road. I have 2 boys, one at Life and one at Hauser. I'm here today to just express my surprise, as I think everybody else was, with the resignation of David and Lisa. I'm really interested in the timing of the resignations, how quickly they came together, and how they came right after representatives from the board were being appointed to negotiate the teacher contract, and as well as after a meeting where the board members supposedly voiced their desire to replace the superintendent. I'm wondering if this is the reason why they didn't leave. Both David and Lisa cited increased frequency in the length of the meetings, and as part of the deciding factor, maybe it's time to look at these meetings, how long they go, and running them properly, looking at the board policies to how properly run them. Also, maybe it's time to let the administration do their job that they were hired to do, and give them some space to show them what they can do for this district. It's time to back off a little. Maybe it's, many of us here tonight have known and trusted David and Lisa for a long time. They have reputations of being some of the finest citizens and some of the hardest working volunteers that this community has to offer. And their decision to leave right now sends a big warning to the rest of us that something is going on with this board and something needs to happen to change things and make a change.
Thank you very much, Laura. Jennifer Limebeer?
Good evening. Jennifer Limebeer, 209 West Burlington, former board member. I came here tonight with the same reflections that the previous people have reflected, but I'm going to ask you to look at yourselves and to think about what you're doing and your behavior. Why? Because I've been there. So here's the deal. We as a community, all of us here, all the stakeholders, all of us that disagree and agree, went through a very long process, very conscious process that included all the stakeholders, the teachers, the parents, the kids, the community members, the village representatives, the senior club. Every single one of them came out during that process and gave us a description of what they wanted to see for this district. Not who, but what they wanted to see in that vision. The board members at that time sat down and very carefully used that as a guidepost to figure out what would be the best person to lead and bring in as an administration, and it was a definite shift. It was a change from what John Lamberson was. It was a change from what came before him from Dave Bonnet. We knew that was risky, but we also knew is what the community wanted and what the community was going to back up. The Board of Ed is supposed to lead with vision and consensus. And I want you to think about what happened last week when they resigned. They're sending you a message and all of us a message, as we've already heard. And my question to you is, what did you do to bring this to happen? I'm not going to ask you to answer it. I want you to answer it in your own head. Because I know what my initial answer would have been is, I did what I could. I did something. The problem is it can't be I. It is a we. There are 7 people on this board that have to talk to each other, not hear from the 10 gazillion community members and the newspaper about what you're supposed to do. You 7 need to figure out together what is important for the district, and you need to do it together. And that might mean you do less. It might mean you take compromise. But that means that you have to move forward with the district. But it's not an I. It's not your agenda. It's our agenda that you're coming to consensus about together. So the lesson I'm saying to you is you need to think about you as a we. That you're a group that has to work together. Not one person represent one constituency of the district and another person represent another constituency of this district. Because I've been in those shoes. You can't do it. What you have to do is figure out what together makes sense as a district. What together makes sense for you to move forward on. And micromanaging your administration is not what you're supposed to be doing. It's not. So you have as much responsibility to absorb. I'm not sure I should believe what's in the paper, I'll be honest. Because I've been on that side, I'm not sure I believe what's in the Landmark. No offense, Bob Skolnick. But I don't always believe it. Because I can't believe that somebody on the board would have revealed what was happening during closed session or something so touchy. But if there's any truth in it, you have to take responsibility for that, not just blame it on the superintendent. It's on your backs if it fails, because you have to figure out how to lead by example. And I'm not sure you're doing that right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Gretchen Lupfer.
Good evening.
Oh,
I should mess with that or not. I'm here tonight to ask the remaining board members to think about their responsibility to our community. Are you as a board representing the priorities of our entire community? How are you deciding what to spend your time on? From where I stand, I have seen this board spend much of its time and energy questioning every single action the new administration attempts to make. Have you given Dr. Sharma Lewis a fair chance to showcase her abilities as an educational leader? Has she been given the opportunity to implement ideas and demonstrate her expertise? Sometimes we need to give someone a chance before we immediately question every move they make, because constant questioning simply impedes progress. Which brings me to my point. What progress is being made? Our community has many concerns that have yet to be addressed by this board. For example, monitoring progress in the shift to Common Core, plans to improve test scores, plans for the growing enrollment, researching middle school scheduling practices in order to restructure the schedule and curriculum at Hauser, improving special education practices, the implementation of a foreign language program in our elementary schools, just to name a few. The resignation of David Kadama and Lisa Gaynor puts the Board of Ed in a unique position. You are tasked with finding 2 individuals to fill these vacancies. We will be paying very close attention to the process you will be going through during the next month. Ultimately, this decision will be up to those of you who remain. The choices you make will send a clear message. Will your choice reflect the voice of the community, or will you choose candidates who best align with your current positions and priorities? Again, I would like to remind the remaining board members that your job is to represent us, the community, the children, the parents, the taxpayers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gretchen. Rory Dominic.
I'm Rory Dominic of Kent Road. I have 2 boys.
The board's familiar with me. I'm going to do you all a favor because I think what you've heard tonight is a lot of the things I wanted to say. And in the interest of keeping meetings moving forward, I'm not going to go into some long diatribe. What I will say is that hasn't been touched upon. Board policy and procedure is not followed here. You all know that. I've brought it up to you in private emails. Things are thrown on an agenda at the last minute. We don't find out about them in time. Your fellow board members don't find out about them in time. It makes for a very long meeting. 7+ hour meetings that you all have to sit through because you do 4 hours and then you probably do 2 or 3 hours in closed session. That's not good decision making. Who's making a good decision at 1 in the morning? Nobody. So I'm saying this for your own benefit. Let's try to find a better way to have these meetings run so that you're following policy, you're following procedure. We as a community know what's going on. And the last thing I'll say about the comment that was in the landmark, if you all seem to think, if you think that a no confidence vote and then in turn subsequently getting rid of Dr. Sharma Lewis is something this community is going to support, paying out of her contract, finding an interim superintendent, and then going through a superintendent search, which we just did, that we're going to support that frivolous, irresponsible spending, I think I speak for everybody here, that's not going to happen. And that's the message you sent. So I ask you to please listen to these people. We all care about this community. We can do better. I know you all can do better. I voted for some of you, and I'm shocked at what is going on here. So please think about it. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Joanne Rogers.
My name is Joanne Rogers. I live at 455 Loudon in Riverside. I'm going to take a different tact here. I'm going to thank all of you for your service. Thank you so much, profoundly, from the bottom of my heart. This has been a very difficult year. You've had to deal with a lot of issues, some which came from the past administration, for sure, some which arose this year. You've had a long, hard fight. I truly appreciate what you are doing for this community. I truly know that each and every one of you, and I'm sure David and Lisa too, are doing exactly what you think is best for this community. It's a lot of work and it's a volunteer job. There are so many people in this town who are critics. I'm not a critic. I trust you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Julie Lobby. Did I say it right finally, Julie?
Yeah, good evening. Julie Lobby, 505 York Road. You know me, I've been coming for 7 years to board meetings whenever possible. I'm going to speak to you as a parent and as an educator, for I taught for 15 years before I stayed home. I'd be in my 25th year if I was still teaching now. First, as a parent, just as a reminder, when I came to the August board meeting, I asked that across the board, like you do with wellness policy, that you'd have water bottles and snacks across for all the schools. We have Blythe Park teachers here that are wonderful, and my first grader knows them, and he's afraid to take his water bottle into his classroom. Even though I'm sure Mrs. Sarah wouldn't mind because it's not part of the policy. He's been coming to these meetings since he was 3 years old, so he knows. And I think in Central and Ames, or Central and Hollywood now do it. Central is in there with Hollywood. I don't think it's a bad thing, especially where I live on York Road. If you're not familiar, they redid the streets last year, and the coating on the pipes when you get your water is the same that is put into Dial soap, the antibacterial soap. That's what you're drinking when they first do the streets. And I don't want my 6 and 10-year-old ingesting it. So that's why he has his water bottle, because it's the same thing going into Blythe Park, the same water. Even if you have OSHA and all the flushing out of the systems. That aside, as an educator, I've been coming and watching these meetings, and I was shocked also what I read in the landmark and with the resignation. As an educator, I was in Park Ridge and in the Chicago, and we had development. We had professional development in Chicago. And here you have teachers who finally, for Dr. Lewis, have professional development, which we fought for. And I don't know how you could sit here and give her a no confidence vote when these teachers need that for Common Core, and they haven't been given it really for 8 years. I had it for every year for 15 years. I had professional development. outside of what I had to do for my certificate. In school, during hours, we had professional development. How could you be fighting and saying that Dr. Lewis does not be here, but Dr. Gannon, everyone. We miss Mr. Clabone, but Ms. Gorman has been wonderful with what Dr. Gannon even has done. He's personable. We can talk to them. I urge you to reverse that no confidence vote and to keep an open mind, because we're into also contract negotiations that are coming up, and you lost 2 board members who knew how to do things. No offense, but a lot of you are new. I don't think you've been through contract negotiations. I have, as a teacher. I sat on the board for my school. I know what it's like, and I don't think you have the capability. I think you really need to come together as a team and look for resources if you need to guide you, because we don't want to be losing out on Dr. Lewis, Dr. Gannon, or any of our teachers and administrators leave because something has gone negative. We like our teachers. We love Blythe Park. We like the other schools too. I know the parents from coaching. Let's keep them. Let's keep them here. You have teachers here tonight that care, and they're here because they like District 96. Don't change that. Don't take that away from us. They're helping our students, our families, our parents. Let's keep them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sharon McGee.
Hi, my name is Karen McGee. I hate public speaking, so I must feel passionate about what I'm getting ready to say if I'm here. I agree with Joanne. I think it's extremely hard to be on the board, and I commend you guys for being part of that process. It's a hard job, and there's a lot of things that you can and can't say, that maybe you want to say, and I get that. I understand that, okay? However, what I would like to talk to about tonight is integrity. And I'd like to I have notes. I don't know if I'm going to use them or not. I'm going to do my best to stick to them, but I want to talk about integrity. And I want to talk about when you go into a closed session, okay, it's so that you as a board can say what's ever on your mind and not feel like you're being, every word's being watched and judged and, written down. That's the point of a closed session. At least that's how I believe a closed session should be run, right? So you can talk about things. And when that's compromised, that goes to the core of the board. That goes to the core of who you are. That means all of you are compromised. Every single one of you are now compromised. And you may not need to be, but you are. And your integrity is compromised. All of it. Who's going to believe a word you say if somebody's out there leaking what you're saying? On your board, one of your people that you trust is speaking out of turn. Does that make you, take pause? Make you say, oh my God, really? I mean, it should. It makes me mad because it's not what we put you guys in place for. That's not what you agreed to, Mary Rose. You talked about integrity. You talked about being accountable. Is that what's happening? It's not. You guys are better than this. I agree with Joanne. You guys are a great group. You're better than what's happening right now. You're better than that. You better start showing us. Come on, step up to the plate. So obviously I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about information that came from the paper in a closed meeting session. That means that only someone on the board could have gotten that information out. That's the bottom line. You can sugarcoat it all you want. That's what happened, okay? So you've compromised the process. You have not honored your commitment to policy and procedure. You have now made other issues that, as a board, you guys are all going to have to address. Somebody on your team now has given you another thing that you've got to tackle. Policy and procedure. What happens if you go into a closed session meeting and they're talking? Do you have to write a policy on that now too? I think so. It is important for a board to know that they can have these conversations and trust their counterparts are going to honor and respect this process. Did you guys do that? Has that been done? Is there somebody on this board that's put you all in a bad position? Once you lose trust in your board members, how can you effectively work together? When you don't have trust, how can you work together? What happens to integrity? What happens to the policies and procedures that have been put in place? What happens if one day it's you that your board member doesn't like what you said, and you go in a closed session, and they decide that they're going to kind of spill the word out there? What if it's you, Randy? What if it's you? You going to like that? I don't think so. You're a guy with integrity. You're not going to put up with that. Okay? If they do it to one, they're going to do it to another. Now because of this, the board members will have to be on guard. Can you really say what you want to say in a closed session? Is it going to end up in the paper? Is it going to end up in someone else's ear? Do you feel comfortable and confident in talking to your counterparts? Do you? Really? I wouldn't. You know, how can you work effectively together with such a lack of respect? Lack of respect for policy and procedures. Policies and procedures that you guys all agreed to follow. Every single one of you. Every single one of you are responsible to this community legally for policy and procedures. You are, because you made a commitment to do that. Do you understand that? It makes me wonder if such a lack of respect for policies and procedures, such a lack of respect for how things need to proceed, for following policies and procedures, is why Lisa and David left. I wonder if it's why. Their history dictates they are not quitters. Their history in this community says they're not quitters. Their history dictates they are about our kids. They're about our kids. They're about the teachers. They're about this community. That's what their history shows us. Their history shows that they are committed to policy and procedure. If you watch any of the meetings that have happened, it's all about policy, procedure, education. Why would they leave? Is it not being followed? I don't know. I'm just asking. Once you have a board that does not believe it has to follow policy and procedure, they can act however they want. Once you have that board in place, what happens? You're right up there with Lamberson, aren't you? We don't have to follow anything. We can do whatever the hell we want. Is that what happens? He's someone who thought he could do whatever he wanted. Is that how you guys want to be known? You can just do whatever you want? You don't have to follow policy and procedures? I don't think so. You guys are better than that. I agree with Joanne. You guys are a good group. Come on. It's one thing to disagree about, I don't know, how a tax levy should be done or what color the wall should be. That's one thing. That's all stuff. But it's another thing when you're talking about integrity. When you're talking about following policy and procedures. But you guys, every single one of you guys, that's what you're supposed to be doing. If you don't do that, you have chaos. Come on. Okay. How can the superintendent be expected to function effectively with teachers, students, the board, parents, the community, when such a blatant disregard for her as a person and a process shows up? How can any of us, Mary Rose, would you like something printed about that, like you, when you're just trying to do your job? I don't think you would. I don't think it's fair. It's not effective management. How can us as parents believe in a board who doesn't hold up its own policies and doesn't hold dear the integrity of what the board is supposed to be about? How can we believe in you guys? How? Do you trust the person sitting next to you? Will they do and say whatever they want when it comes to you, or are they different? Are they going to be different with you because you're special? They won't ever do that to you, would they? Because you're special. You're protected. right? My husband always tells me to believe in who a person shows themselves to be the first time they show themselves. That's who they are, right? That's who that person is. Okay? In other words, I'm almost done. In other words, don't make excuses or say it won't happen again. If it happened, then that person showed their character. So if someone leaked something, they showed their character, period. This is it, I'm done. I think a board president's job is to hold its board accountable, to help and keep and protect the integrity of the board, to ensure policies and procedures are being followed. With this in mind, I think this leak needs to be looked into. Some sort of action needs to happen as a result. Maybe the person is asked to leave. Maybe some policy and procedure is written to provide direction to the board as to what action should happen if this happens again. I also would like to see policies and procedures written to show what action the board can take if the board president is of not upholding policies and procedures. I believe this has already been requested and is being worked on. Hopefully it will continue. The board's been compromised. It's really too bad for all concerned. One bad egg changes it for all of you. They ruin it for all the hard work that you guys have been doing. They ruin it. Absolutely ruin it.
All right, thank you very much, Karen. Chris Roebling.
I want to thank everybody. Thank all members of the board. Thank Karen for her comments, with many of which I associate myself. However, I want to point out that if what Karen started with...
Wait a minute, is this about me or is this about what you have to say to the board, Mr. Rowan? Because, I mean, do I get a counter, whatever you're saying, or are you talking to the board?
Karen, please.
No, that's not fair, Mary Rose. I didn't sit there and point out what people said. He's talking to you, he's not talking to me.
All right, thank you, Karen.
Okay? I just agreed with Joanne.
Well, how do you know he's not going to agree with you?
Because he already started that he wasn't. He already said, however, that's not in agreement.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome, Mary Rose. He needs to direct the board, not
Karen,
me.
these are one of the policies and procedures I'm supposed to be enforcing. Please, thank you.
Hopefully, I'll stand behind them.
Thank you very much. All right, Chris.
Are you guys okay?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
If what Karen started with was true, then we're not talking about only the 5 of you as having had access to the information about what happened in that meeting. I don't know who was at the meeting. All I know is what Bob wrote. Bob knows who spoke to him. I don't. Okay. But there were 7, according to Bob's count. And if what Bob writes is true, and I don't know it is, and I don't hear anybody saying it is, but that means that David and Lisa may have been on the losing end of exactly the kind of compromise that folks are talking about. I'm saying that when people...
Karen, please.
This is not, nobody interrupted her. Reaching.
Go ahead, Chris.
If people meet in closed session to discuss important issues and they end up taking votes, then there may be winners of those votes and there may be folks who are not on the winning side of the vote, just like any vote taken in public. And if people end up on the losing side of a vote, they might decide to leave. So I think there are many interpretations of what happened that are not as dark as what we just heard. I also want to say that I, for one, in addition to thanking all 7 of you, David and Lisa now in absentia, and I've thanked them before explicitly here in public, I personally, as someone who has watched the district over the last 11 or 12 years, believe, as Joanne said, you have been confronted by a series of issues not resolved under prior administration, as was said at the very beginning by the head of the very teachers union with which you guys have to deal. And I think that that is a profoundly determining fact of your service, and one which ought to be appreciated by everybody in this room and everybody in this community, because there are unanswered issues still arising, I believe, if you look closely, from the last era. Unanswered issues financially, with personnel, with policies and procedures. I've been circulating to numerous members of the board articles about preparation for math ed under Common Core. And I'm sorry, Dr. Sharma Lewis, for what I'm about to say. I'm sorry that I have to say it. But John Lamberson did nothing. And the teachers did not stand up and complain when he was here. I did. He did nothing. And I don't think you have taken the steps that are necessary to prepare these teachers for the kind of math ed that Common Core requires. Nor do I think that you or District 96 has taken a single step to prepare the parents of the kids. And if you read the New York Times, not once, not twice, 3 times in the New York Times in the last 75 days, there have been very specific articles about the difficulties for parents as well as for kids, as well as for teachers. And as someone who has paid his fair share of taxes and has come to the meetings and has talked about math curriculum, that was the first time I spoke after you arrived, Dr. Sharma Lewis. I talked about math ed and about math curriculum from 96 to 208 meshing for the first time since I've moved to this district. Nothing has been done, publicly disclosed, to help our math teachers prepare for what they need to do under Common Core, and that will reflect poorly on both the kids and on their parents. And that's unacceptable. And that is a failure. So I'm not here to say that Dr. Bhavna Lewis has done everything correctly. Dr. Sharma Lewis, I'm sorry. I'm here to say you guys have got a tough row between immediate issues like Common Core conversion and postponed decisions from the last era, some of which are now looking like they could end up in a very bad place. So I thank you, as Joanne did, and I appeal to everybody to watch very closely what these 5 people are going to do, because I have faith in your judgment and your dedication and your integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Margaret Sinise. Thank you.
Hi, Margaret Sinise, 367 Blythe Road, Blythe Park parent, and I back up the support of Dr. Lewis, and I'm here to also ask you guys to kind of get it together like everyone else, and I thank you for your service. I don't want to keep going on. Everybody's pretty much said everything, but I'm in support of the teachers and Dr. Lewis. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Jennifer Cameron. Jennifer Cameron, 65 East Quincy.
That's me. I have nothing to say. I just want to sign it.
Well, howdy.
She didn't sign it. Somebody else signed it.
All right, thank you very much, everybody, for your comments and for coming this evening. Now, I have a comment as well. As most of you know, because you certainly told us, David and Lisa, 2 of our board members, resigned last week. They made their decision, and I wish both of them well. And I also appreciate their service to District 96. I've learned a lot from them, and you all have too. As board president, I want to assure the community that we have confidence in the important work of our District 96 staff. We've made strides on key initiatives, including special education services, Common Core preparation, and technology infrastructure, We will continue this work during this school year, which is just beginning, as we strengthen academic achievement. Our district is committed to meeting high standards. Filling the 2 open board seats is a top priority. I again invite all community members to ask themselves what they can do to help our schools provide the very best education, and let us know if you can serve on the board. Candidates should submit their resumes to Mary Rose Mangia at district96.org or to the entire board at boardofed@district96.org. We've extended the application period to Wednesday, September 10th, and please let us know your reasons for seeking this position and your vision for moving this district forward. We are working through a number of issues from the last administration, including the compensation of our former superintendent and the questions this has raised about our current internal controls. We will employ all legal means necessary to make taxpayers whole, and we will also, in addition to working towards the best education possible, strengthen our transparency and our communications on our operations to the community. Our taxpayers spend a considerable amount of money on this district. The board must insist on transparent operations as well as high academic standards. At the same time, our staff must remain clearly focused on continuous improvement in the academic results our children achieve. District 96 must once again be counted among the very best districts in Illinois, and we know our staff is dedicated to this goal and can achieve it. District 96 has great staff, great students, and great parents, and great community support. With that support, this board will lead District 96 to academic excellence. Thank you very much. All right. First item on our agenda, which is the approval of the Board of Education members' resignation. May I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the resignations of board members David Kadama and Lisa Gaynor?
So moved.
Second.
Juanita?
Okay. Rachel Morella. Aye. Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Okay. And the motion is passed.
And I have a second motion, some business here, that the Board of Education approve the contract for the appointment of the Instructional Technology Coordinator position as presented in the board packet.
So moved.
Second.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Yes.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Yes, it's passed, and welcome aboard Robert Petito, who's our new Instructional Technology Coordinator. All right, new business. New business. As we all know, we have 2 open vacancy positions. We have put out a call for resumes. And now I'd like to see if we can maybe just discuss among us what our procedures would be, and maybe our target date for actually doing, making the appointments.
When does the 45-day date expire? Did we figure that out?
October 11th.
And I believe that's is that a Sunday?
Saturday.
Saturday. And we have a board meeting, an education committee meeting on October 7th.
What time is that committee meeting? Is it 7 o'clock?
Usually 7, yeah.
Okay. Do you think that, could we do a special meeting either right before that?
I'd be happy to if we can get up, have 7 people to talk about educational topics.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we can appoint them and they can sit right down. I guess Art and Mike, you've gone through this in the past, and at least I'm hoping that this time we will review all the applications and do some interviews. Any ideas or thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, 45 days is October 11th, and it can't be business days, correct? It's actual days.
Calendar days.
Those are calendar days.
When's our closing date to receive resumes? Was it the?
September 10th. So it'll be a week from
I would
tomorrow.
think that by once it closes by the 10th, we do have a regular board meeting on the 16th. We can talk about it in closed session, maybe narrow it down, but at least trying to have a formal interview process. Because I think the last time we did it, when we appointed Lisa, we wanted somebody to come in up and running, and that's what led us to Lisa. I think it would probably be best if we had an interview process. That's my thought. Now, when those interviews, I would like to appoint someone, to have another special meeting. I think we ought to do probably interviews the week of the 22nd.
Mm-hmm. And who, do you want a subset of the board to do the interviews or the full board?
The full board is 5 people now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the full 5 should be involved personally.
So we're going to have to call up an official meeting.
If we could, if it works out that all applicants are available, like on the same night, I don't know what kind of, miracle could bring that, but that would certainly make it easier for us to, work through that as a whole.
Depending on how many applications we get, I think we would maybe want to narrow the group down. I think I also have gotten some advice to publish the names of all applicants, whether or not we interview them.
I think, yeah, I think I would favor that. But then, how many? We don't know how many resumes we're going to get. How many people, if we're interviewing for 2 positions? How many? I guess how many final candidates do we want? 4 or 5?
It would be about what I would think, about 4 or 5. I mean, that may be the only number of resumes we get, but I mean, we don't know. I think, didn't you mention that for the one position you might have had 4 or 5 a couple of years ago?
I believe so.
I want to say at least 6 or 7, and we
really?
probably, I don't want to give away who applied, but I do remember us narrowing it down to 2 candidates.
Who did the interviewing? Was it the entire board, or did you designate a couple people?
We didn't do interviews.
Oh, you didn't do interviews?
So
okay.
Obviously there was, there has been feedback on that decision over time, so generally negative. At least from who I heard from, so I mean.
Yeah, everybody says, yeah, do it again, don't interview.
So are you available for a board meeting the week of, would you say, September 22nd? No? When are you next available?
Towards the end of the month. But I still would want interviews to go on.
Yeah, I'm in support of that.
Are you okay with the 4 of us doing it?
Mm-hmm. I am.
Oh, that's right. So interview questions is something that there's some examples in the policy exhibit, if we want to go with those or develop something else.
We'll probably add to it. Do we want to, we can't do it, we have to do it in open session, I assume. Are we gonna
To do what?
To come up with the interview questions. I think that it's fair to say that we each can come up with our own questions and the closed session ask what you want to ask. And if somebody already asked something that you've already wanted to elicit, then you don't need to repeat it.
I think there is some thought to ask everybody at least substantially the same questions, isn't it? Not that they,
Right, no. Basically,
Okay.
yes. Basically come in there prepared. I mean, there's only 4 of us.
That's fair enough.
Because we can't discuss the interview questions ahead of time. Bit of an OMA violation. So, do you guys want to come up with a date now for the week of September 22nd? What's the Tuesday?
The 23rd.
Okay.
So if we get out of that meeting on the 23rd and after the interview, are we prepared to act and appoint those folks that meeting? Or are you anticipating maybe another special meeting on the week of the 29th to kind of
I would
think about things?
I would prefer to be able to meet the finalist candidates.
Then I would say we have that meeting, check on the 23rd. And then, as long as we're acting before the 11th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Could we have that debate before the education committee meeting? Or what was our problem with that?
There wasn't a problem, I don't think. Whether that person would be ready to go that evening, I think was the only discussion. It doesn't have to be the Tuesday. Does that work best for everyone here?
Tuesday the 23rd?
20, yes.
That looks fine to me.
That's
right
fine.
now.
Oh, is it okay? All right. What time?
So then it's a matter of just asking the people back to the following week, right? To meet Mary Rose,
Our finalist candidates.
finalist.
Yeah, well then let's go to 23rd at, how about 6:30? That way we can try and accommodate all candidates in the interview process. And then, I don't meet again on the 30th with the final candidates to come out with an idea that after the 30th, that night of the 30th, we're gonna have our 2 final candidates. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
And
then we're
they'll
gonna
be
vote.
appointed on the 7th?
Okay. Okay. Do we need to make, do we need to make a formal motion for this process, or is this our?
I don't think so.
It's new business.
It's just new business. So, just discussion of procedures. We just need to call, just call special meetings, and I guess we'll take care of that. And just take care of putting the agendas up. Right. Right, thank you. Now, may I have a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity.
So moved?
Second.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Rachel Morella.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mary Rose Mandria.
Aye.
And Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
All right, we now enter into closed session.